Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review at the completion of round 9. We're recording live on Sunday, the 11th of May, and they're going to go through all the action because that was a doozy of a round. A lot of people struggled, and we'll get into my week, but it's certainly one for the record books and not in a good way. But I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And join me tonight. I've got a couple of special guests jumping on with me to review the round. They've definitely got better insights than what I can give you at the moment. So, but joining me is a man that's been on the channel a number of times. First round review, I believe, of the season. It's good old Fry from Sports by Fry, mate. How are you?
I'm well, Bales. Yeah, as you mentioned, it's been a minute since I've been on the AFL Fanatics channel, but happy to be here. Like a lot of coaches, I think the last couple of weeks has really separated the men from the boys and the good coaches from the great coaches, and I still seem to be hovering, but glad to be here and ready to tuck into recap and a rip around of footy.
Yeah, the fact that you said that after I said I just had a bad week means that probably last time we get you on the podcast. I'm joking. Awful week from me, but we'll get into that very shortly. And joining us is 2024 runner-up and been jumping on a fair few times this year, which is fantastic. It's coach of Pom United, Tom. Tom, mate, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Bales. Sorry for the lack of camera for those who are watching live. I've got no idea why it's not working, but I am here. My week, I don't think, was quite as bad, thanks to my plethora of North and Brisbane players actually turning up today. So, yeah, excited to dive into it.
Beautiful. Well, we'll get stuck into that then and ask you how you went this week, Tom. So what was your score? What's your round rank and what's your overall rank up to now?
Yeah, so I had an okay week. I had a 2084, which is a round rank of 16,769. So not great, kind of middling week. And that puts me with this tiny green arrow up to 8,121st overall.
Yeah, beautiful. Moving in the right direction at least. That's always a nice thing.
150 spots. Come on.
Yes.
Flying.
Fry, mate, how did you go? What was your score, round rank and overall rank?
I was a +6 behind Tom, so I had 2078. I think a round rank hovering around the just 17,000 mark, which, is disappointing because I've had a couple of those in a row hovering late, but I'm still kind of holding rank inside the top 5,000. I think I was about 4,500 before the start of the round, and slipped back about 200-300 spots at the moment. So still glass half full, still in a solid position. This time last year, I think I was out somewhere in the teens at the 15,000, 16,000. So just glad that I'm still got 4 digits tied next to the large fries and Coke at the moment.
Well, I wonder how that feels because that's certainly not me anymore. There's no glass half full for me. The glass has been smashed. There's no more glasses. They've been smashed around. I scored a 1961. Only coach in the Content Creators Cup not to crack 2,000. Round rank of 51,083. My worst week of fantasy probably I've ever had. I've never had a round rank that bad. I don't think. I might have had a round rank of like 48,000 a few years ago, like round 1, but clawed it back. So all the good work I did over the past 3-4 weeks has pretty much been undone. I'm pretty much back where I was in like round 3 or 4, down at 13,019. The 5-digit rank, and I'll get into all the drama in my plus and minus 3 and show who gets my plus and minus 3. But Tom, we'll go to you for plus and minus 3. Who gets that for you this week?
So I've had a bit of an issue in defence throughout all the season. I've had a Stewart in there, I've had a Farrell in there, but a few weeks ago I moved to Max Holmes and he threw up some 60s. But this week was the week. 118 from Max Holmes. Just everywhere, actually got the thirst back, actually hungry for the ball, running into spaces, really good contested as well. So my +3 goes to Max Holmes. And my -3, my little midfield pod, Jai Newcomb, just got a bit of a Clary tag, just didn't really seem particularly, just not what you're expecting from someone who you're banking on in the green matchup to go and put you a 3-figure score.
Yeah, not great. Don't know what was going through Simon Goodwin's head to let's put this bull of a midfielder that gets 30 touches a week essentially when he's at his best, and he hasn't had a good sort of 18 months or so and started playing a bit better at the start of the year and has a week off, and you'd think, okay, let's just get him back in the midfield and get him getting touches. Nope, he wants to tag Newcombe, so that's fantastic. Fry, plus and minus 3 for you.
I'll start with a negative. Like a lot of coaches, I think on Thursday night, I burnt my VC by picking Nick Dacos. I did the vintage, and I've give myself a bit of credit. I haven't done this a lot this year, but did the last minute change from Andrew Brayshaw. Thought, no, Fremantle are going to lose. I need to pick Nick Dacos. So swap the V to him, and obviously failed to get over 70 points. So that was a bit of a letdown. But my +3, sticking, I do like to call myself somewhat of a rookie analysis. So analyst, rather. I think Zach Reid with a 50-point first quarter and then finishing with 118. I don't want to rub salt into the wounds of any coaches who traded him out. My suggestion was to move on from him before his 90 a couple of weeks ago or last week. But 118, anytime you get a score like that from a rookie, it's going to be fantastic for their cash gen. So hard to go past him for my +3.
Yeah, I refused to watch that game. I traded Zach Reid 3 weeks ago, and he's gone better every single week. So next week, you're going to be getting a 120. So congrats to everyone that's got Zach Reid in their team. So let's go to my rabble. So I have to start on negatives because my team is just absolute shithouse. So -3. I'm going to give it to a number of players. I'm going to list them off.
I like it. Let them know, Bales.
They're training with the two. They're training with the twos this week. I might as well just not even have fans 10, to be honest. No particular order. Finn O'Sullivan, 29, covering for Jaiden Short, fantastic. 29, you get a -3. Nick Dacos on debut, you get the -3. Jordan Dawson got tagged, 78, you get the -3. Clayton Oliver, 41, you get the -3. Ned Long was passable. Lindsay, 44, you get -3. Don't care if he's a rookie. 44 is just disgraceful. Caleb Daniel, who I had out of my team until Short was out, -3. Jack McRae, -3. Isaac Rankin, -3. And my whole bench, -3, except for Levi Ashcroft, who I had to bench because I had to pivot from Caleb Daniel. So people are probably thinking, why did you bench Levi Ashcroft? And I'll tell you why. So Jaiden Short was out. I thought, okay, I'll hold Caleb Daniel. I'll trade Jaiden Short because we don't know how long this knee injury is going to be. He got obviously injured in the warm-up. Thought I'd trade him out. But that means I'd take Foss regardless of any situation happening. He was my only cover in defence. So I had Bustler and Carroll who didn't play. Then I was like, okay, cool. I'll keep Caleb Daniel, but it meant I had to bench one of Daniel Ashcroft. So I thought, okay, I'll bench Ashcroft because he's a rookie, and I'll play Caleb Daniel because I think, okay, I was going to trade you out, so you're probably going to go big. No. So I'll give my actual -3 to Caleb Daniel for having to keep him. But that was the shit show. That was my team on the weekend. The only saving grace for me, only player to score, only one or two players to go over 120, and that was Bailey Smith. 149 points. He is on an absolute tear this year, averaging 118.9. He is now the highest averaging player in the game. He's 5 points clear of Lockie Whitfield now, and one of only four players to be averaging over 110. So he is just on absolute, amazing season. Recruit of the year, you can already put that there for Bailey Smith. One score below 100 this year, and two of his last three have gone over 130, and his last three scores all over 119. So he's in very, very good form, and he gets my +3 deservingly because he's the only player that decided to show up for me this weekend. But we will just quickly touch on the Content Creators Cup. I lost, no surprise, lowest score in the league. Fantastic. Went down to Harmy. I'm now on the bottom of not only the head-to-head ranks, but also the rankings in terms of where coaches are ranked. So I'm at the bottom now, so that's great. But we, in terms of the actual Fantasy Fanatics, we had Jaiden getting the job done over Mini Monk, 23.36 to 20.56. We then had Guesty going down to Holmesy, unfortunately, 20.55 for Guesty and 21.34 for Holmesy. And then we also had Jordox, who went down as well to Louis, 20.43 to 21.93. So funny enough, all of the Fantasy Fanatics except Jaiden went down to Pod members. So congrats to Pod for getting all of the dubs there. And in terms of overall ranks, Louis still going really well, up to 122nd now, going along very nicely. Also, a few coaches in the top 1,000. You've got DT Lemons next at 639. That guy just keeps getting it done year on year. Then you've got MJ up to 795 and Sanch up to 728. DC 896. And then a lot of other coaches inside the top 10,000 going along nicely. So there's Harmy, Jordox, and myself. Unfortunately, the only 3 coaches outside the top 10,000. So, yeah, we've got to get a bit of a move on because we are losing lots of ground quickly. But let's get stuck into the games and chat about some of the scores because there were a lot of poor scores going around this weekend. So we'll start off on Thursday night, which was Fremantle and Collingwood. Collingwood getting the job done by 14 points, resting a heap of people. Jordan Clark and Luke Ryan, 134 and 122 respectively. They were definitely chip-marking it around there. Whether that's something moving forward, I don't know if I'd have much trust jumping into either at the moment. Andrew Brayshaw, 119. He was fantastic, responding after a pretty quiet game last week. Shea Bolton-Fry. So this is the first one I want to ask you about. So 97. With Hayden Young, obviously out for the remainder of the season, he had the third most CBAs behind Brayshaw and Sarong. Is he an option? He's going to be, I think he'd be below 700K. I know we've got a lot of forwards, right? But a few people are trying to get these last rookies off the ground or trying to get these spud rookies, I should say, off the ground. Is he someone that coaches maybe can look to?
In a word, no, I don't think so. I think, I've been waiting for a pop score or 100 plus from Shea. He may have had one already this season. He actually got a lot of the pill, probably a season high in disposals. Don't quote me on it. But I do think, Matty Johnson's another mouth. They love to feed in that midfield. Corey Wagner got some CBAs while he was kind of running with Dacos. So there'll be times where Shea might get a heavier dose of centre bounces, but from a Fremantle game plan standpoint, I still think he does his best work in the front third of the ground. So, he might be a bit of value. There might be 10 to 15 points upside, depending on where he's priced at. But the buy is handy, if that does suit some coaches. But as you said, I feel like most of us now will have 5, maybe even 6 call-up premiums in the forward line. So it's probably not an area we're shopping in. So, it's a great score, tip of the cap, but probably more draft relevant for mine.
Yeah. What about Luke Jackson? So he scored 92, was decent. And obviously, unfortunately for Sean Darcy, he went down with another knee injury. And I believe that's the same knee that he's had surgery on and everything. So I can't see him I could see him being out for a while just to try and get that knee right. Probably got to do something else to have a look at what's going with that knee. But depending on how long he's out, is Luke Jackson an option either in the ruck or in the forward line?
I think that this is an interesting one for me. So I actually was at the ground for this one, so it was an enjoyable watch as a not Fremantle fan, because they battered them and lost. It was a weird game of footy to watch, but I think he could be an option purely because, like, just talking from my team's point of view, I've still got Cherry and TDK. Bringing in a Jackson into the forward line does give me someone who I can slot into the ruck on those weeks. Mm-hmm. It means I can play 21 rather than 20 if I don't want to trade with either of those. Because with my team, they are the least of my issues that I've got to deal with. So it is an option. I think we need to see how long Darcy's out for. If it's a longer term injury, and as long as Liam Reedy doesn't just swap back in, I think Freo looks infinitely better with Jackson in and around the ball rather than playing as that third, fourth tall up forward. So I don't think
Reedy will come back in. I think they tried that first few games and they dropped him, and Freo played all right with Jackson in there. So I think they'll persist with that. So yeah, something to watch and a good point. If you've got TDK and Cherry and you don't want to make a trade in the rucks just yet, then maybe that could be something you definitely look at doing. Strong was there with a 91, just still not quite getting it done. He's getting very cheap though for non-owners, so I'm sure that he'll become relevant at some point. Then we get to the poor scores. Josh Dacos, 70. Not a lot of people traded into him the last couple of weeks, particularly this week, and he put out a poor score. Ned Long with a 67 was disappointing. Obviously, we were hoping he'd just tick along another 80, keep that cash gen going. But 67 means that his cash gen might be slowing down a bit. His break-even will probably move into the 60s this week, I would anticipate. And depending on how he goes against the Crows next weekend, his job might be done. So he might be a trade out at some point. Nick Dacos, 67. Yeah, that was fantastic. Gotta love watching a premium absolutely tear you apart when you don't own them, and then when you have them, look like they're no better than a 230k rookie. He had 5 minutes in the second quarter where he looked good, went forward, but copped a bit of, I think he copped like a hip corky or something. He was getting it rubbed down. Then apparently went for scans for a pec injury. I think that it'll be fine. We'll obviously find out, but I can't see that being a long-term thing when he finished out the game. But that's becoming a thing for Nick Dacos. Every time he gets tagged and gets for a low score, he seems to complain about something. So I'm intrigued to see how he goes moving forward if teams start paying even more attention than what they already were. I think, though, that Nick Dacos against the Crows will be fine, though. Crows don't typically tag, but I guess we'll find out how he goes. Cooper Simpson, 59, Fry, an option for us as a forward?
Yeah, it could be a shout. He has been playing in the back line for Peel Thunder for the majority of the year, at least the last month or so, and that's where he spent a big chunk of his game time against Collingwood as well. So it's worth flagging that Freo's run into their bye is pretty heavy. You know, they've got GWS, Port Adelaide and Gold Coast. So there's some cash cows that coaches might have a bit more faith in, but I think that Freo need to kind of shake something up, and it might be that Cooper Simpson's able to string a couple of games together. So, yeah, I think he had most of his points in the first half as well, right?
Yes, he was on like 40-odd at halftime, and he didn't touch it much in the second half.
Yeah, but, 73% TOG is still really encouraging. Yeah, he's definitely someone that I'll be eyeing off as a downgrade option, and it feels like the last month or so we've really been lacking with forward downgrade choices. So Simpson's definitely someone on the radar.
Yeah, for sure. It's good that some rookies get over 70% game time, because we're going to chat about one in this game, which is St Kilda and Carlton. We can't get the job done by 15 points. And unfortunately for Carlton, it's injuries galore for them. They had McGovern go down with a sternum injury, copped a big hit there. Lockie Cowan did a hamstring. I saw that Haynes went off a couple of times, I believe, with I think a shoulder injury, and got hit in the head at one point as well. I think Sard grabbed at a groin. So a lot of injuries there, but I guess my rabble of a team might actually get a red dot turned to a green dot. Matt Carroll might actually make his return, but he's got Sydney, so I don't expect a huge amount from him. But Ryan Marshall, 116, he was very good for anyone that jumped on him and made that switch. You gain 12 points if you went TDK to Marshall, and be pretty happy with his first up game, and he's got West Coast this week. So I think we've seen enough the last few weeks. We got a ton of 90 and a 116, and I think he's someone that you can definitely look at trading into with West Coast, and probably fixes a buy structure up if you've got TDK. But I don't think TDK is a must trade, because he scored a 104, so he was pretty good, and he's got Sydney and GWS to the buy, and they've been giving up some points. So I think you're probably not trading TDK, Tom, at the moment. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it all depends on how your team's sitting. If you're in my kind of situation, I think getting rookies off the field is the priority. We're seeing this. We're seeing Bice slowing down. Only a handful of rookies scored feelable scores this week. Lots of 30s and 40s.
Trainer, and Ashcroft off the top of my head. They were the three that.
Yeah,
and
Max
Pryor, if you
Hall,
still
the 70.
Pryor.
Leave. Yeah. So trying to pick which ones are going to drop a 30 or a 40, and that's where it's really going to start hurting, when you've got teams higher in the ranks with better team values, have premiums in those positions, and you're fielding. Like I fielded the Boxall 38. Poor choice by me, but it would the other person I'd probably fielded Cleary for a 37. So I'm up one.
Yeah. Well, actually, you touched on him, so we'll quickly chat about him. So Hugh Boxall, 38. I don't know what you guys think, but I think if a player's not playing over 50% game time, and they're not the sub or the starting sub, what's the point of playing them? Like, you might as well just put them in the VFL, play a full game. He's had great form in the VFL, and they clearly don't trust him enough to put him on. He starts on the bench. When they do the rotations, it's almost like he doesn't come on. It's like 6 minutes, and you think, okay, cool, goal's been kicked, everyone's going to come on. I noticed that 3 changes to be made, but he would still be on the bench. And then he'd come on 2 minutes later for some weird reason. And then he'd go off with 5 minutes to go, and he wouldn't come back on. So you definitely can't field him. I don't know if he's going to be dropped by any means. I don't know if he'd be dropped. I think they like it. I think they like him being that 50% midfielder that just gives the other mids a break. But with Filippo not playing any mid-time, and he's going to get mid-time, you sort of wonder, he could be could be out. So something to watch. That you could go either way. So yeah, you definitely could.
To kind of answer that, Bales, I think, we've seen that, and why everyone jumped on him, he was just dominating in the VFL. So I wonder if from like a St Kilda coaching standpoint, they think that, him being exposed in small doses to AFL midfields is going to be better for his long-term development. It's just really a shame from a fantasy standpoint that he's not been given a longer leash. I was honestly surprised he wasn't the starting sub, because I was like, if you're going to use him in small bursts, deploying him for the last quarter of the game, then he can just go run amok for, call it 30 minutes of footy. That might be better. So yeah, if he's not dropped, then I think a green vest is in his future. So yeah, it's disappointing, because if, he was given a little bit longer leash, then he's clearly got the chops to be able to put up fantasy numbers. But as you pointed out, there's a lot of other players that take priority in that midfield for St Kilda.
Yeah, exactly. But Ross is definitely putting his name in that Bevo, if he hasn't already, in the Bevo circles. Not using a sub and then using it early on Hugo Garcia, and now he's playing someone under 50% when they're not even starting sub and they don't get subbed out. So yeah, interesting. Some other players here. Paddy Cripps, 108. If you jumped on him a couple of weeks ago, you got a few good scores there. So really nice from him. Jack Steele, 109 was good as well. That's back-to-back good scores. Still not getting high disposals, but his tackles are up. So could be someone that you do look at there. We mentioned DeConing with the 104. Jack Sinclair, I think, is a top target this week against West Coast. 95. I think that 61 was just his worst score in 3, 4, 5 years, whatever they said. So he's a good one there, probably low 900s. So someone I'll be looking at targeting. Walsh, 84. Unfortunate shout out to Jordox. Just has not been the pick this year. He was 2 tons back to back, and every other game has been sub 100. And he just seems to be getting a lot of these 80 scores. And unfortunately, that's what Walsh is until we see otherwise. But he's going to drop some money at least, so someone to keep an eye on. McRae, 75, was a bit down, but was getting a bit of attention from George Hewitt throughout the game. So put that down to a low score. Filippo, Fry, so 73 in this one. Didn't play any mid-time at all. He was 4, but still looked pretty good. Kicked a couple of goals, played about 70% game time, so still pretty low. But are you launching him just yet? Or do you want to see some midfield time first, then launch in? Because I guess we're sort of wondering when he's going to get that midfield time.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and there was a couple of coaches that were asking me before this weekend, can we go a bit early and, might be one step ahead, but it was almost bang on his break even. You'd expect him, especially after that little stretch we saw last year, to be better than the 73 he scored on the weekend. Does have West Coast this round, as you pointed out, and then Gold Coast and Melbourne leading into his bye. So some relatively friendly matchups for a fantasy midfielder. So an area I'll be shopping in as well. I think a lot of us have got some, not necessarily mid prices, but guys in the midfield that would be looking to move on. Like I've got an Adam Chera, myself, Ned Long, as you pointed out, might be getting to his max price. So we can still save a couple of bucks by potentially chasing Philippou. Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one to determine whether I pull the trigger myself, but I can see why a lot of coaches are interested, especially with pretty friendly run before that bye.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, something to watch for sure. You can go as early as this week if that's the best you can get a failed rookie up to. But yeah, probably I think I just want to wait and see midfield time first and then jump on. But he does have West Coast this week, so even if he is a forward, he still might actually go okay. So you definitely can go now. Adam Chera. Fry, I will go back to you for this one because you mentioned him. Chera 72. Is this? I guess it's still a luxury because I think people looking at the 72 and go, that wasn't a good score, but he moved into defence when they had these injuries. So that's probably the flag that he had a poor score because of that. But he's got Sydney GWS before his bye, round 12 bye. Does he go for you if you're in a good spot and you've got these rookies sorted, or is he someone that you'd still prefer to hold and then trade on his bye? Where are you sitting?
I think it's, a bit of a cop-out, but I think it is a bit team-dependent. Like for me, I've got a couple of guys in my midfield that have that round 12 bye, and I'm sure we'll touch on Caleb Daniel a bit later, but I want to try and move a couple of those guys on to players who have a later bye that potentially present a bit of value. Like we've just talked about Philippou, it's only one extra game you might get there, but you can save probably around 200 grand by chopping Adam Chera to Philippou. He's averaging 80 across his last 3. I think a bit, regardless of where he's playing, whether it is in the back line or if he's in the midfield for Carlton, he kind of has done his job. Like he's gone up prior to lockout lifting. It'll dip a bit, but he's gone up 186 grand on the season. And I don't think anyone picked him believing that he would be a top 8 midfielder or a keeper. So it is a luxury move. But yeah, if you're in a position where Levi Ashcroft is maybe your M8 and he's the only one in your midfield you can move to potentially get up to a bigger name, then I can see the appeal for sure.
Yep, exactly. Maxwell 70 as well, for anyone that's still got him. A little bit of cash gen still there from him. So he was very good. West Coast this week, so if you still have him, you hold him, and maybe even could be a fieldable option this week. Could be someone you look at there. And Hugo Garcia with a 64 as well, just ticked over an okay score there. Moving over to the Saturday games. So the first game, Melbourne and Hawthorn. Hawthorn by 35 points in this one. Big Max Gawn gave his owners a bit of a scare. Now, a lot of people had him captain on the Saturday after Dacos, let everyone down because pretty much everyone that had him mostly went him there. Shout out to, I know, Jaiden went Brayshaw VC for his projections, so he'd be pretty happy with that. And a couple of other people I saw in some matchups, but most people went Dacos. But Gawn, 34 at halftime, comes out and has a, 79 point second half, sorry. And he was absolutely fantastic. So very, very good from him. Jake Bowie continued his very good season, 109. Langford, 95. He was very good once again. I partly wish I did jump on him a few weeks ago when I was looking at him in the mid 400s, but he was very good there. Sicily, 95. Petrarca, 92. Just some decent scores there. Rivers, 74. Salem, 70. Dylan Moore, 69. He's probably going to be below 700K this week, if not next week. And there's going to be some we're going to have to look at some point. He will turn it around. But, yeah, just some poor scores. Even in these easier matchups, which is, I guess, a concern. Maybe we don't launch, but he will be very, very cheap. Newcomb, as you mentioned, Tom, 67, unfortunately copped the Oliver tag because that's something that we see every week. So, unfortunately, there. But, yeah, Tom, Lindsay, 44, Oliver, 41. Well, Lindsay, I guess you trade, right? I think the bigger one, because Lindsay's gone 33 and 44 in 2 weeks, so he goes. That's fine, right? Clayton Oliver. He's going to drop 50K this week. He's
just got to go. I think this happened last year where he just started playing proper full game time and scoring horrendously. Like, we have to remember for last season, like, he played like 21 games last season. He wasn't cheap because he was injured. He was cheap just because he was rubbish last year. So I think that's one. You could even just trade them both. there's your upgrade, downgrade. Get rid of them both. Be happy going forward, because I just don't. The fact that Goodwin's using him as a tagger means he doesn't want him going for the ball, which seems crazy. If you said that 2 years ago, that is all of us going to play as a tagger. It's you'd be like, what are you talking about? The guy averaged 120 for the first 10 weeks of the year. Yeah. So I think you just got to get rid while you can. While you still got some money on his head.
Yeah. Well, it might be good for some people that might be able to look at it, because I don't know, because I've got 50 holes I've got to try and plug, so maybe he stays for me, who knows, but the run isn't great coming up. And then, yeah, unfortunately, Henry Huswaite as well, 30, subbed out just after halftime, pretty much on halftime. Very, very interesting that they used the sub that early and subbed out Huswaite, who a bit more quieter, but certainly not sort of doing anything too bad, I don't think. I didn't watch much of this game, but yeah, subbed out. So he's obviously a trade. His cash gen is done, and he may even be dropped next week, because you get Connor Nash, I believe, back from suspension, and Cam McKenzie, I think, as well, might be back. So that would sort of make sense there if he made way. Moving over to Essendon and Sydney, and I deliberately didn't watch any of this game because, yeah, it would have been very, very painful. But Nick Martin, he's back. 100% game time, 141 points. He is a very good target if you can get up to him. I think he's going to be about 980 there. And defender forward, you can put him in the forward line or defence. He's got Bulldogs, then Richmond, 2 very good matchups. And that Richmond game's on the Friday night, so that could be a really good VC option looking a couple of weeks ahead. But Nick Martin is a potential good option. Zach Reid, he's not a rookie anymore, premium defender. He's going pretty well. So, yeah, that's fantastic. I will refuse to watch any Essendon games moving forward until everyone's traded Zach Reid out. Then I can relax. But trading him out at just over 500K with the wet weather, and then having a 74, then a 90, then a 118 on my head. And I know I wasn't the only one. A lot of people did make that move. So unfortunate for everyone that did that. What do we got here? Nick Blakey 117. What happened? I didn't actually see what happened. Did you guys see? Zach Merritt?
Yeah. I watched the game. Like it was just both teams put absolutely zero pressure in their forward 50s. It was just you can chip it around the back line all you like, and then and then obviously when you went forward, that's when the pressure came. There was no forward half pressure from either side. With Hayes in, Reid played a little bit less accountable in kind of like the Ridley role rather than with Hayes taking the role he was taking this with the second tall, which I think why he scored so well. I will say I did call this to my mate. It was like I have to field trainer or Reid this week, and with no loop, I'm like Reid will go big. I didn't think he'd go 118 big, but I did call it.
Still counts.
Still counts. What happened to Nick Blakey? Because I didn't see the incident with that.
With the Merritt, he was just kind of the ball was bounced up in forward 50. Merritt tries to tip it over Blakey's head and collects ball and Blakey's head.
So is it concussion? Was it concussion for Blakey?
But he passed. He passed his HIA, so there's no stress.
Cool. I was just wondering if that would. I was wondering that for Bison Roberts for maybe next week if there was anything to worry about there. But obviously Blakey, he's fine. That'll be all good there. But Pryor 115. Now I know he was a very highly traded out player amongst a lot of people, and a lot of people unfortunately went him to Lewis Hayes, which 50 was tracking all right. It was on 52 there at just before 3/4 time, and his knee buckled. And you just feel for guys like that have bided their time in the VFL and just haven't had a chance to really break into that 22, and then they finally get in and playing well and then go down. So, obviously thoughts to Lewis Hayes, and he'll be back. And unfortunately, a lot of people trade into him, and that'll just be, I guess, that's your red dot moving forward unless you can move it throughout the buys. But I wonder if that changes Zach Reid's role moving forward, if he becomes more accountable, because I don't know who else they've got to come in, because Lewis Hayes was almost like the last guy there, and I'm not sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Essendon's backline moving forward. Matt Roberts, 94. Considering Sydney were pretty poor in this game, even though they only lost by 8 points, 94 is a solid score. He's just a hold right through till his buy, and maybe potentially past that, depending on where our teams are at. Chad Warner, 86. Heaney, 82. They just remind me of 80s guys at the moment. They just can't really score anything over 90. I know Warner had that big score a couple of weeks ago, but those two. I think Warner's still a solid target. I don't know if Fry. I don't know what you think of Heaney. I've thought he's been an option for a few weeks, and he just hasn't had that score, that pop score that has made, I guess, everyone want to jump on. And we probably think it's coming, but if he just keeps putting up these 80s, and even last year wasn't even a high ceiling player. He went over 120 a few times, but he's just a consistent 100, 110 player. Is he someone that you're still on your watch list, or at the moment are you just wanting to see something and then you might jump on?
Yeah, I think we got to see it. I mean, Chad Warner probably interests me a bit more, just partially because he's got the forward status as well. And he was one I was really looking for to potentially buying. I thought that their run leading into the buy, maybe he could be someone that scores well, makes a bit of money, and then I can reassess who I want as my top 6 forwards around then. But going back to Heaney, he even kind of slowed up late last year. You know, we all moved heaven and earth to get him if we didn't start with him. And he was pretty great for 2/3 of the year. Yeah, at 98, you say?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
There was a stretch, I swear, like late. Maybe I've got...
No, you're right. You are right. He definitely wasn't as prolific at the back end of the year.
But I think either way, if you look at Sydney this year, you know, they're not, compared to comparing the two grand finalists, you know, Brisbane's still right at the pointy end. Sydney are kind of transitioning under Dean Cox. I think they're 3 and 6 now, or 4 and 5. So, you know, them not being blowing teams out or being in contention in a lot of games is probably leading to a lot of their stars, your Warners, your Heaneys, a lot of those guys just, 10 points, 15 points less than what their reputation might usually lead us to believe. So, yeah, I think we got to see it first. It's one to watch, but, he's not even really at a price point where I'd love to buy in the high 800s at the moment. So, not an area I'm shopping in, but Chad Warner interests me a little bit more.
Yeah, there's someone in that range that is defender mid that we'll talk about. He's already been mentioned with a +3 from Tom there, but we will chat about him a little bit later. Sardell Hawley, Fry, is he the guy to bring in this week? He again, as I said, I refused to watch this game. Didn't want to watch Zach Reed for my mental health, but 82 wasn't the sub. 21 touches, kicked a goal. Obviously, Harry Jones out for another 3 or so weeks, whether he comes straight in or whatever. A lot of injuries there. Is he someone that you'd be happy to launch into?
Yeah, it was, to be honest, regardless of all the other bits and pieces that went on this weekend, it was just really nice to see him not have a sub-vested game, because we saw him have that 70-odd about a month ago, and he kind of did his work between the arcs. Full disclosure, I didn't watch for the full game as well, but he's definitely a popular buy. I think that def mid status is going to make him very tempting. He's break-even rolling into the weekend. Yeah, round 16 buy, break-even rolling into the weekend was around a starting rookie price. So even though he's had an 80+, he's not going to dramatically rise in price. So fingers crossed he's still under the 300K mark. But yeah, someone that I'm definitely, if I didn't own him, it's a bit of a flag, like he might be the sub again. I wouldn't go moving heaven and earth to get him and saying he is a must-have, but presents a lot of value and has a lot of opportunity before Essendon's buy to keep making us some handy coin.
Yep, agreed. Looking forward to that. Zach Merritt, 80, obviously got the Jordan tag. He'll drop a bit in price for non-owners, but he's got Bulldogs this week, and then he goes into Richmond. So wouldn't be surprised if like a Matt Kennedy did like a bit of like a stoppage, not tag per se, but just on him at stoppages. But then the week after against Richmond, that could be the week to pounce on Merritt because he's got that round 16 buy. So one to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks there. Riley Bice, 66. He's obviously slowed down a heap. I think if you can trade him, great.
He saved that as well. That was a big save.
Yeah.
That was a 48-point second half. Like that was looking stinky for 2 weeks in a row. But he saved that. I think for me, he's probably the biggest trade out target for the vast majority of sides this week. I think it was perfect time to get him up to a premium defender and go from there.
Yeah. Or for me, he'll be staying. I've got the refuse. I got, yeah. So what do we got here? Yeah, and as I said, Lewis Hayes, unfortunate there with the 52. Caden Cleary, 37. With Sydney losing, I think he's still in the team. I think he's still done some good pressure things, but something to watch. That who knows what his job security looks like. But 37 isn't great, but we know that he can drop 60s and 70s. So the hope is probably not a field option. Probably, well, he's got the Friday night game, so you might be able to get a chance at a loop, right? So you loop him this week and see how he goes if he's still in the team. Sam Wicks, 34, was disappointing. So if you have him, trade him out. And then, yeah, Archer Day Wicks, 27, bit quiet. I think he was on essentially 21 at quarter time or somewhere around there, and didn't do too much after that. But could be someone, if he stays in the team, could be someone to look at there. Moving over to the two night games. So we'll start off with Gold Coast and the Bulldogs. Gold Coast getting the job done by 10 points. Bulldogs almost snatching that really late on. I was hoping they did because I tipped them. But unfortunately, tipping isn't going too great. Actually, no, it's not going too bad. Anyway, Libba, 140. Trelaw obviously out this week, and apparently another calf injury again. So probably be a few weeks out. Probably have to go to the VFL and whatever. So Libba, if you have him and you held him, you keep holding. He was very, very good there. Ed Richards, 131. He's just having a fantastic year himself. Matt Kennedy, 114. Again, if you started with him and you've got him, you'd be very, very happy with him. Bailey Dale is maybe an underpriced defender after his buy. He's got the round 12 buy. Probably hard to get him now, but maybe after. He might be around that 900K, but could be someone to look at. Bont, 1 goal 3. Could have been a lot bigger, but 104, probably good for non-owners, so he doesn't go up a huge amount in price, and we can get him after his round 12 buy there. Joel Frazier, I don't think he scored below 70 since I traded him, so yep, cool.
Same Bales. I traded him out the week. He had that 60, and yeah, he's just gone on a massive tear for the last month.
For those people that haven't switched on, this is a current theme. Everyone I trade out goes well. Everyone I get goes crap, and I break people. So fantastic. John Noble, 87. Rioli, 85. Noah Anderson, 82. So, yeah, unfortunately, Jordy has obviously got him, and he has been a struggle. But he's going to get cheap. He's going to be below 900K in a couple of weeks. So I'd imagine if he scores like this again, one more Darwin game, and I think then could be a pretty solid option to be looking at there. Sanders, 69. Davidson, 62. The Pastor, Fiorini came in, 57. Flanders, 51. I just no idea what's going on with Flanders. He's going to be that cheap, but we're not going to launch in because we haven't seen anything. So he's, again, another one we need to actually see something first from him. But he was disappointing there. So probably not much to chat from that game. So we'll move on for sake of time and move on to one of the games of the round for sure. Adelaide defeating Port Adelaide by 5 points. Very nervous at the end there. But Mark Keane, my hero. What a mark that was. Connor Rozee, 122. I think we've seen the shift with the Crows this year that they are actually a pretty good matchup for designated kickers. They have been for a little bit now. Rozee continued that with a 122. So any Josh Dacos owners, you probably will get a good score next week. But defender status incoming for Rozee will be very handy to chuck back into defence there. James Peatling, Tom, we chatted about this a couple of weeks ago, and I was keen on this play.
Let's not, because this 2 weeks ago, I had 2 trade options. It was bringing Dacos or bringing Wanganith Miller and Peatling.
Yeah.
That went really well. I think it's like 200 points in 2 weeks.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at that. It just, it's not going.
We don't laugh, we cry, right?
Yeah, this is my season. Like,
is Peatling still an option? They got a tricky run till their bye, but Crouch out though. He's now shown a few weeks in a row. He's going to be near 800k, which I guess makes it tricky. But any interest, or is it maybe the boat sailed this week? Like it was this week at 750, and he's now going to be 800.
I think because of the run, and I'm going to keep telling myself this because was my rationale. I think because of the run, I'm not as keen. But he is the kind of player who might thrive a bit more in harder matchups than, because he doesn't get that much outside ball. He's more building his score through tackles and contested possessions. So if it generally might actually be okay run for him, specifically. But if he's the best you can get up to, and it gets you a rookie off field, love it. You can do way worse.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, could be someone that I'll look at targeting depending on what I need to do with trades this week. What do we got here? Zach Butters, 95, had 33 touches, was very, very impactful in this game. Just a lot of handballs there. But again, another target after his round 12 bye. I think we're all going to be looking towards him there. Jason Norton Francis, 89, got there late, had it was a good third quarter, I believe. Yeah, 46-point third quarter. So, I know Showdowns can throw out some interesting scores, and that was certainly one that was very interesting there, and I thought he almost was going to win the game for Port Adelaide in the end there. What do we got? Jordan Dawson, 78. If someone told me that Miles Bergman was going to tag Jordan Dawson this week, that would not have been on my bingo card. So that might be something to move forward in looking at in terms of Port matchups. Bergman seemed to matches up well to the tall midfielders. So maybe if they play like a Bulldogs, or I know they just played Bulldogs, but just using like Bont or someone like that as an example, Bergman could do a job there, because I think he did a really good job on Dawson. Dawson was pretty much unsighted for a lot of the game there. So, but 78, poor score. I think he'll bounce back against Collingwood at the G, which we've seen him go 170 at a couple of years ago. So who knows? Isaac Rankin, 77, was pretty quiet. Wasn't quite getting it done. I think the Crows midfield as a whole was pretty poor here. So I just put this down to a bad game from the midfield. I expect Rankin to go well. He's been pretty good as a forward for us this year. Rory Laird, unfortunately, it's just I don't think he's an option for us, unfortunately. That absolutely breaks my heart to say. 64, tough matchup. Maybe if they have an easy run after the bye, maybe, but I think it's just a draft one, and hope that he can put up some good scores for you. But that does kill me saying that. Kane Farrell, 53. He's got to go if you held on to him still. And then, Marais was the starting sub for Port. Scored 25 and actually played all right in that last quarter. If you've got him on the bench, he can go because he might not be there, or he might still be the sub because, keep an eye on that moving forward. Moving over to the Sunday games, but as always, before we do, we are obviously sponsored by Infinite Wealth, obviously Guesty's company, but we're also sponsored by our friends at Game Day Squad. So another AFL Fantasy platform, as you guys are aware. I was going to say the IPL as well, but that's been postponed for weeks. So my nights ruined in terms of after 11:30. If you guys want to sign up to Game Day Squad and get involved in the AFL Fantasy stuff on there, got all other different sports and everything. It's all good fun, and weekly prizes are fantastic. So make sure you head over to gamedaysquad.com.au and use the code BAILSDT at sign up, and you get yourself 3 packs valued up to $21, and you get yourself 27 players to kickstart your club. Make sure you get around the good guys at Game Day Squad there. So use the code BAILSDT at sign up. Moving to Sunday. Cracking game, this game. Richmond and West Coast, 2-point winners for Richmond there. And I can certainly say that a lot of those West Coast fans would have just been yelling at Tom Gross just to kick the ball.
No, we won. Pick one, baby.
Interesting. But very low fantasy scoring game. So Jack Graham, revenge game there, 104, 13 tackles. He was good. Tim Taranto, one that we chatted about earlier. I think it was before pre-pod as well. 94 points, 51 though at quarter time. So you can better believe that Jordox sent us a message at quarter time thinking that bad weekend, but Timmy Time was showing up. Then he decided to go away and only score 43 points after that. But 94 in a week where a lot of bad scores, you take it at least. But yeah, poor that he didn't go on with it. Ryan Marrick, 92. You love things you absolutely love to see. 10 kick-ins, played on from 9. So I don't know what he was doing with that other one when he played on. But, 92, great for cash gen, and comes up against the Saints this week. So hopefully makes some more cash and goes towards 800K. Liam Baker also 91, revenge game for him, but probably not a lot of people have got him still. What do we got? Luke Trainer, 69, was okay. I think he's safe for about a 70-odd. Fry, what has he got? He's got North Melbourne this week, then the Bombers. I don't think he goes a bit tougher after that. I think he goes Giants and Sydney or the other way around. Does he hold still? I guess he's one of those rookies that we feel like we're a bit feel safe. And if Short's out, I guess, for any sort of amount of time, I guess Trainer might get a little bit of an uptick as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I toyed with the idea of giving him a flick a week or two ago, but then looked and saw the West Coast, the North, and the Essendon matchup across a couple before his bye. And then, as you mentioned, he's got the Sydney duo with the Giants, or the New South Wales duo with the Giants and Sydney before his bye. So I think we can, maybe give him a couple more weeks. It's going to be interesting to see who we prioritise trading out of that backline, right? Because I've been a big person advocating to keep Riley Bias. He'll reward the faith after his stinker last week. But now that he's kind of struggled, he's got a little bit more cash in his head. If, for example, trading Bias over Trainer gets you up to a big name, a Whitfield, a Zorko, a Wangan and Miller in the back line, I think you could pull the trigger on that. But Trainer's time is coming. He was fine in this one. He's probably going to average somewhere between the 60 and 70 mark for the next couple of weeks and then leading into his bye. But all these rookies need to go eventually, right?
Yeah, exactly. The good thing was from today, he had the equal most kick-ins, which was interesting to see. But when you say equal most kick-ins for Richmond, we've got to remember that there's like 50 players that take kick-ins, right? So you had Trainer, Vlosten, and Banks all had 3 each. Then you had Bolter had 2, and then Miller and Broad had 1 each. So would just be nice. Just let it to Trainer and we'd be happy. But it seems like they like taking that team approach in terms of kick-ins. But 69, you definitely take that. That's for sure. Lawler, 63. He's breaking with 60. So if you still got him, I think it's probably time to maybe cash out. Does have North next week. But I think you can trade him there. He's done a pretty good job for cash for us. And I believe that is it. A few rookies from this game. Fry, is there anyone to keep an eye on, maybe bring in? I know there was a fair few rookies, but not a huge amount of big scores there, but anyone that sort of maybe caught your eye?
The only one that I'm monitoring was Tom Gross, and I was praying that he wasn't the sub. I picked him, traded him in after his debut, and then obviously, as we know, he was the sub, dropped for a couple. And when he came on in that last quarter, he did the best thing for West Coast fans by purposefully taking a bounce and getting pinged holding the ball so they can get the number 1 pick, as Tom said. But even though he lost 3 points there, giving away the free kick from a fantasy standpoint, he still racked up in pretty limited game time, played what do we got here? 15% of the game and had 23 points. So I think he's one that we'll monitor and keep an eye on. A bit of inflated rookie price now, but around 15 buy. I don't know how most coaches are traveling, but it doesn't seem like there's too many appealing targets in that buy round. So, he might be able to provide us a pop score throughout round 12, 13, 14, hopefully. West Coast, I feel like they need to change a little bit up in that midfield rotation. So hopefully it means that Tommy Gross gets more opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was really good for the obviously the last 10 seconds of the game, whatever. But I thought he made a big difference when he came on with attack on the ball. He's spread into space. Like I think he could. I have him. I did exactly the same as Fry. He's just sat there at M11, M10, sorry, ticking away. So I'm hoping he gets a full game. I'm hoping the coaches see the positive he did and not just the decision not to kick it inside 50 at the end of the game.
That was that last bit of the game when they showed the vision of the two coaches pretty much sums up football in terms of if you're on the winners or losers. Like you've got Adam Uze sitting there sort of clapping like his player, like really good chase down from Tom Brown. And then you see Andrew McGualter yelling, kick the ball. And then he gets up and just like is just angry. So, yeah, unfortunate there for West Coast there at the very end. But moving over to another very, very good game, this one. Geelong and GWS, 4-point winners to GWS. They find a way down at GMHBA Stadium to get it done over Geelong. I don't know how many that is in a row now or if they've won like 4 or last 5 down there, but they've got a very good record down there. But Geelong, very wasteful, 31 shots to 25 there, which was interesting to look at. But mentioned before, Bailey Smith, 149 points. Like when he tackles, he gets those ceiling scores. Like he was, everything about his game today I loved. He was pushing into defense, getting these +6s, like getting the 1-2s. Like it was just fantasy goodness. And yeah, if he was a straight midfielder, we'd all be probably looking at jumping on him if we didn't have him. But the fact that he is a forward is just a blessing. So let's all enjoy it this year because next year he'll be a mid. And I'm sure a lot of us might even start him as a mid or get him in at some point next year because he's just an absolute gun. And yeah, massive score there. Hogan kicked 7 goals, 133. Good for draft coach if you've got him there. Tom Green, I wish I jumped on him. Should have jumped on him over Dacos. Should have gone the value play. I've learned my lesson again. So there you go. But 133, he was fantastic. Got it done. So he's a good target. Ran 16 by. Still a little bit of value there, I think, on Tom Green. Max Holmes, someone I'm looking at this week, 118. I know he's got Port Adelaide this week, but he looked back to that form we saw early in the year. And after this Port game, his run really opens up and he's got the round 16 bye, which is really helpful. So someone that if you don't have him, I think you should really be looking at him. I think he's still be under 900K, but he's someone that, yeah.
He is 900 and lockouts lifted. 902.
I thought he'd still be under 900.
Lockouts lifted, so
yeah,
he is 902.
I don't want to look at my actually no, I need to do some big surgery on my team actually, so we've got to see what we're going to do. But yeah, Max Holmes, I'm a big fan. Tom, obviously you own him, but as an do you think you saw what you saw at the beginning of the year and you'd be recommending coaches jump on?
I think with the run opening up in the round 16 bye, I think he's very much a good target, especially priced at 92. I think he does that quite comfortably on average. He can be a bit frustrating.
Here's a question for. Sorry, you're going to say frustrating. Sorry, okay.
It has been, he sometimes struggles because he's a touches player and he doesn't get the marks, doesn't really tackle. So that's where his scores tend to not hit the ceilings that you'd want. So yeah, that's my only flag.
Well, so yeah, I was going to ask you a question for you, and I'm interested to get both your thoughts because I think a few people might be looking at a defender this week with your bias, and maybe if you're training a forward, you might be able to put Shees in the mids and target a defender. Max Holmes is obviously an option. Jack Sinclair is an option with West Coast this week, and Nick Martin, after pumping out a big score, could be an option for people in defence. Obviously, Holmes and Martin have got the round 16 bye, and Sinclair round 13. Who are you picking, or how are you ordering those three, Tom?
I think it would be Holmes just for price. Probably Holmes, Martin, Sinclair. I'm just a little bit worried about Sinclair. Purely because I just don't think he isn't that designated kicker. It is all going to Wanganee Miller.
I'm having a look here at Sinclair's scores. So he went to 134 against Richmond, but he's only turned up once since that game, and there's some scores of 78, a 61, and then 3 scores of exactly 95, which is very interesting. Something
he's
to
still placed at that 95 figure, so he's not
as much value, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Fry, how would you order those 3?
I think if you factor in price, I kind of agree with Tom. Max Holmes is probably ahead of Martin, and we just talked about why. Sinclair's probably 3rd on the list, but I probably think with the defender forward status and the, just the importance, call it, for Essendon's team. He plays 100% of game time outside of key position players. There's not many people that can have that claim. So I think Martin a smidge ahead of Holmes, but, there's probably over $100,000 price difference between them, and that can
90, 80.
And that can be very convenient. And we talked about how Geelong's run opens up a little bit. Essendon's isn't as juicy. There's a couple of the similar matchups there, but yeah, it's a tricky one. But I think I'd give Martin the slight edge, and then Holmes, and then Sinclair was someone that I nearly bought when Clayton Oliver was out last week. I was like, all right, he's got a massive break even, but I really think he's going to have revert back to that 95, 100+ guy. But as you highlighted, Bales, he had a career high 40 touches against the Tigers, and outside of that, his numbers have been hovering around the low 90s, call it, because Wanganeen Miller has started to emerge this year as their prime kicker and ball mover. So, yeah, long-winded way of saying Martin, Holmes, Sinclair.
Nasai's been so consistent, and I know Unreal, DC actually said this in our head-to-head video going back into the preseason. Said he thought Nasai could go around that 105 mark. He saw that upside. He's averaging 105.2, and we're 9 games in, and he's only gone below 100 twice. A 91 against Port when he was on 60 odd at halftime. That probably should have been bigger, but obviously slowed down. And 86 against the Dogs when they got absolutely slapped by the Dogs. It was a belting. So, and I guess when St Kilda are winning, he's in defence and playing well. But if they're struggling, then he goes into the midfield. So I think he's a very good toad if you don't have him there. But just thought it'd be good
when and if he starts getting some attention.
I just wonder if who can go with him. He's just so quick. I know some will be able to, right? But
Lockie Whitfield's a very similar style of player, and he gets tagged fairly effectively. Zorko's, I think he's quickly emerging as the number 1 tag target at St Kilda.
Yeah. Please, Crows. Please, Crows. Just sign him up, please. Oh my God, that would be that would make the fantasy fantasy season not worth it if Crows sign when Nasai next week. Yeah, but let's see what happens. But also Nasai almost going back to Nasai because I remembered to say this in the St Kilda game, but he went down with an injury and hobbled off and was about to take a kick in, and he hobbled off, and I was sitting there thinking, yeah, here we go. This is probably another injury, but thankfully it was just I think his foot stepped on, and then he got another corky late as well, but still was fine. So he should be good moving forward. But moving back to the other game here, Whitfield 103 ticked over another ton. The marks just weren't there for him today. A few extra handballs than normal, but still ton. You'd be pretty happy with that there. Grind Myers 99. I think he's going to get fairly cheap because of that concussed game where he had a low score. So he's 817K, scored 99. I mentioned about that good run coming up for Geelong. They got Port Adelaide, but I think Grind Myers could potentially be a target, not this week, next week, as someone to get a rookie up, got round 16 by. He's like a really good guy to bring in, trade at round 16 to a primo. Tom, any interest from you for a bit of Grind Myers? Maybe not really, this week, next week?
Not really. No. Like, I don't see much upside. Having owned him at the pointy end of last season, I'm probably a little bit jaded because of that. He's just fine. He's averaging 84 for the season. I kind of see him at about 85 to 90, maybe. I think there's better upgrades can be done to people. I don't think the top 6 forward is the easiest way to say that.
I don't think he's a top 6 forward either. I'm just saying, guess for people to strap for cash or whatever, he's going to be maybe below 800K, depending on how he goes this week.
I think I'd sooner go to a Philippou and take a proper haircut on price.
Yeah. exactly.
And then you have that 150k for the week after to do your next upgrade.
Yeah. Just someone to put on your watch list.
Oh, 100%. Dylan Moore's
then again,
similar vibe.
Yeah. But then again, I'm on a bad year, so maybe not trust anything that I'm saying at the moment. Next, we'll go to Sam de Koning went 92. So if anyone out there still got him, good score from there. Lockie Ash, 93, got there late. He was not looking too great at halftime, but ended up getting to a pretty good score in the end. Sam Taylor, 69. Just got to mention him every pod, 69 points. There you go. Briggsy, 63. Good matchup, and just you can't go near Briggsy.
He's going to be a 2026 popular starting pick.
Yeah.
I'm saying this right now. Pricing at about 70.
I just wonder if he got 34 here. So I just wonder if they make that a switch of maybe Nick Madden comes in for a game and see what he's got. So it could be a cheaper ruck there, but Briggsy not getting it done.
Right.
Nah, he doesn't, unfortunately. Yeah. And then Joe Fonte, who was a popular downgrade option over the last couple of weeks, 17. So yeah, I thought he was going to do a lot better than that. I thought maybe he could have been an option for coaches maybe last week or even this week, but nope, he put up a shocker. Moving over to the final game, probably completing, I guess, the wacky round that we just watched. We got a draw between North Melbourne and Brisbane. Don't think many people would have picked that. But at the top of the tree, Porco Zorko is back. 137, had a 52-point last quarter, if you don't mind. Round 16 bye for him. He could be someone that you look at in your defense there. 39 disposals with 29 kicks is just fantasy goodness if you have him there. Hugh McCluggage, 117, was also very good. Tristan Sherry, 116. He played 100% game time in that last quarter as well. He had 35 in the last quarter, 38 in the third in a tough matchup. Goes up against Richmond this week. So obviously we know that Nank is a good matchup. So going to be a very popular CVC next week there. Parker, 112. Dunkley, 111. Just consistent as ever. Ran 16 by for him. If you want to pay up, he's a guy that you can definitely go to. Harry Sheasel, 103. Thought that was going to be bigger. Was on 91 at three-quarter time. But at the end of the day, tons a ton. I'll take it. Didn't have many of those this week. So 103, I'll 100% lock in the bank. And I'm sure everyone will. As a captain, probably not what you want, but 100 to 100, you take it. Will Ashcroft turned up as well. He got it done. Levi Ashcroft, 84. That was definitely could have been a lot bigger. He was on 65, if I'm not mistaken, at halftime. Fry, is he just someone that you're happy leaving at F6, M8 up until his round 16 buy and trade then? Because he's getting better and he just keeps getting it done. And his game time in this one, what was it here? Was it
78?
78. So he's hovered around that for the rest of the whole year, right? But is he a hold till his round 16 buy?
Yeah, I thought he would go back-to-back tons because he actually had a donut in the fourth quarter. But
They have a donut.
yeah, I think
Right.
0.
He was on a cold, sat on a cold wing for the whole last quarter.
I think, it seems like a lot of coaches are fielding one, maybe two, maybe three rookies still down back. And then if we've got a couple of rookies in the midfield / forward line, anyone not named, well, no offense to Harvey Langford, but anyone outside of Levi Ashcroft, I think you'd probably want to move on. So, yeah, Levi, the last rookie that we move off field, as you mentioned, he's starting, looks like he's getting better with games he plays, but there'll be the 60s mixed in there. There'll be, hopefully not, but a low time on ground game, or they might rest him or something of the sort. But he just shows that he's, a class above. This is what we talked about his draft year. He's shone as a junior. He's doing it again as a senior, running with the big boys. So, yeah, he'll be the last rookie I move on, whether it's, hopefully you're in a luxurious position. You can pull the trigger on him before you buy, but there's nothing wrong with riding him out to round 16. Couple of, on paper, call it tougher matchups, a few mixed in there. But, he's a freak. I think he'll hover around that 80-point mark that he has all season, right up until his week off.
Yep. He's got Melbourne at the Gabba as well, which is a pretty nice matchup there, so should be good. I know Fast Break Friends are just in the chat there saying Zach Reed not in the same bracket. I guess Fast Break Friends, he probably is for now, but I just want to see with Hayes out, does he play more accountable or does he continue playing the role he does? But yeah, I think, yes, he probably is in a bit of the same boat as Levi. You ride him until he puts up a poor one, then trade. But Yeah, I don't want to talk more about Zach Reed than I have to. And then finishing off on this game, a few other players here. So we mentioned Levi there. Going down, Hardiman 64. If you jumped on him, he might have actually been really handy if you had him. You could use that as cover for Jaiden Short. So 64, if a few people out there had him, you'd be happy. Caleb Daniel, Tom, 57. This is why I wanted to trade. I knew that I had a feeling that he was going to put up a shocker this week, and he did. 57. He's got Richmond, though, and then Collingwood, who I know Collingwood have been a bit trickier, but they have given up. Obviously, we saw what Jordan Clark and Luke Ryan did on the weekend. Do you just hold him to his bye as a forward and just trade him at round 12 with these matchups? Or, again, luxury position for some teams, maybe you trade?
I think, as I said earlier in the show, I think as we're seeing some of the other rookies, Lindsay, Cleary, your Wicks, your Boxall, we're starting to see some rookie fatigue. Get your rookies off ground and then deal with Caleb Daniel on his bye. You can't trade him before Richmond. I think that's just. I just don't think that's a smart thing to do. If you've only got Zachary and Levi on, and you're flying with only 2 rookies on, then maybe you can look at a Caleb Daniel. But if you're in a position like me, I still had 4. I still have 4 rookies on field, 2 defenders, someone, and Levi. I'm looking at rookies off before I even debate Caleb Daniel, unfortunately, because he was putrid.
Yeah. The thing I think that's interesting to note here, again, this is something else I thought might happen. The kick-ins flipped. Sheasel had the more. He had 5. Caleb Daniel had 4, so still very even. But that shift made a little bit more this week in terms of Sheasel more kick-ins, and whether that's something moving forward or if it was just that I think Caleb Daniel went off with the blood rule as well, and I think Sheasel had a couple of kick-ins at that point.
Yeah. I don't think it was. I think it's just whoever's closer. I don't think there's a. Yeah. I think they're happy with either.
It's just one of those two. Yeah.
It's just whoever's there takes it.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were
season where Sheasel would run 120 meters to take a kick in.
Yeah. I think it was just Comben and McDonald took 1 each. That was the only other 2 outside of that. But yeah, it was clearly those other 2 there. So they're going along nicely. We'll finish off with Finn O'Sullivan, 29. He's just going to be that guy we have in our team all year. He's not going to make enough money to trade him out, but he's not going to make. He's just not going to be filled. He's just going to be like M10 or D8 and just sit there and just So, it's what it is. I was just praying today would be the day he'd go over 55, but that was not to be. So
you and me both, Bales. We must have jinxed him because he didn't even get to his 40-point platform that we're used to.
Did you have him on field?
I just used him as Jaiden Short cover. I half butchered it. I had Sardell Hawley. Didn't have him as an emergency. So I was like, all right, it's time for Finn O'Sullivan to shine. And he dropped us absolute stinker.
I'm just I got the trainer cover, so I'm very, very lucky with that.
Yeah.
Some people had
and look, that's what the fantasy season's about, right? Like Bales, you opted to trade Short. I took Finn O'Sullivan's cover. Tom had trainer. So there's so many of these like moving parts in a weekend.
The best part about that was I had Finn O'Sullivan no matter what I did because I brought in Nick Dacos. If I had got Tom Green and got the cheaper guy, the value guy, I actually would have been able to pivot to Max Holmes and put Shees into my midfield, and I would have had Levi on field and not have to have Finn O'Sullivan. But that is the way my season is going. So, apologies to anyone out there that just shown that this has been a bit of a sob from me. But at the end of the day, I'm suffering big time. And hopefully we can turn this around at some point.
It's a safe space, mate. Let it out.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
If not, I'll hide behind the fact that I'm on the podcast, so I can't complain. So there you go. I hope maybe AFLW Fantasy is where I'm going to be looking at next because that's obviously a couple of months away. Looking forward to that getting started and maybe might be a bit more successful in that than this. We do have a super chat here from Cactus MTB. So he's got one here for us. Thank you, mate. Thoughts on Lindsay to Simpson and jumping on Nasiah? So Tom, I'll go to you because you were considering Nasiah.
Lovely ticket. The one thing I would say is just check your round 13. I know we're saying it's a good buy, but there's a lot of players that we quite like on that buy.
Filippo, Marshall as well, maybe.
Filippo, Marshall, Sinclair, Wang, Brayshaw, maybe Sarong getting cheap, maybe Luke Jackson with no Darcy.
McRae, even if we're using Boxall cover.
McRae, just check. But if you're not inundated, love the trade. Gorgeous. Do it now. Makes yourself your whole week better when you open the app.
That was so British then. Gorgeous. I love that. Going through some other ones here. A lot of people saying how bad the round was and how terrible it was. Won't do a huge amount of questions just because we'll do obviously Tuesday night Q&A. But going through here, what's Matt435 said? Hate this game, guys. Have Foss cover short. Selling Reed aim on 3 weeks ago. Just grim. What's more important, getting in Sard for a rookie or going Daniel to Filippo? So, Fry, what do you reckon with that one? So, firstly, Matt, I feel your pain, mate, because I've not been too far off of that. Not the aim on bit, but yeah, a few of those other things, not going away. But what do you think, Fry, about? Do you think getting in Sardell Hawley for a rookie is better to get that cash gen going, or would you be going Daniel to Filippo?
I think you hold Daniel for that Richmond and Collingwood matchup, and then we can flick him on the bye. The rookie you're probably trading out is probably a Red Dot or a Finn O'Sullivan or someone like that. And if you bring in Sardell Hawley, as I quickly try and find out what his current break-even is, minus two. There you go. He's got, so, even if he's the sub, fingers crossed he's not, but if he comes on the deck and he scores in the teens or a 20 or 30, he's still at least incrementally going up. And I think his game on the weekend probably gives him a little bit more, or hopefully instills a bit more security in his role and his job. So, I'll do the rookie patch up before moving on from Daniel. It's tempting because I'm looking at flicking Daniel myself, but I think, with Richmond on the horizon, we've got to get these rookies off first. It's something we preach every year, and then we try and get a little bit fancy at times, and we just end up fielding a Foss. So, rookies off.
I think one thing also about Philippou is that's the maximum he could have scored this week for me. He played really well in his role and scored 73. I think we need to see that role shift before we.
And we also, we keep talking about how, he's going to get the midfield bump. Now that McRae's there and a lot's changed since he last played footy, maybe he is just going to be a half forward who, has 10% CBAs. Might pop later in the season, but we kind of covered it when we talked about his score on the weekend. I think we want to just see it for a little bit longer. It's not like he's going to get away from us in price. And you might even be able to bank Caleb Daniel's score against Richmond and then look at addressing it and doing a Philippou switch.
Yeah, I think he will. I don't know if he'll get as much midfield time as he did last year, but I still think it'll be at least like a 50-50 split. Like he'll be like the fourth guy behind you had Steele clear number one, McRae 2, Garcia probably 3. Philippou maybe goes ahead of Garcia maybe, but still plays a bit forward because he played pretty well up forward. But still
I see
pretty
Mason
cheap.
Wood come in because Mason Wood didn't play. I see Mason Wood coming up forward, Boxall to sub, Philippou taking Boxall CBAs as something I could see happening. Yeah, I'm trying to predict Ross, which is hard.
Very, very hard, that's for sure. But I'm having a look here. Boxall played 29% game time in the last quarter. What is that? Oh, unbelievable.
You don't want him on the field when the game's in the balance. Like we saw X in the final game play 100% game time in the last final quarter. Absolute hero. I think that's kind of what, if you want the best players on the field and Boxall, unfortunately, is the 22nd player of the 22. And that showed with his game time.
Yeah.
Just Craig Cooper, tell us who you're trading in so we can avoid them, Bales. Yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate that, Craig. It makes me feel better. Ben's saying go Caleb Daniel and Lindsay to El Hawley and Green. Tick for me. As long as Lindsay's probably on your bench. I don't. Fry, could you play El Hawley on field, or is he still a bit?
I think it's still risky. Yeah, when if all of a sudden he's a sub or he's flicked back out, then where do we go, right? Yeah, no, I think if Lindsay's on your bench, that sounds like a really savvy move. But otherwise, I'd be trying to finding some cash to get Lindsay up to Philippou or finding another replacement elsewhere. Maybe a bit of DPP action, but I wouldn't want to field Sardell Hawley. Wouldn't do it with confidence anyway.
Yeah, agreed. Someone just said there as well. Who was it? LM says, does Rosie get DPP this week? No. Post round 11. So right in time for the buys is when he'll get DPP. So he's very much on track, and I would be surprised if they move out there out of that role, because he's just going along really, really good there. A few people ask as well, what's the update with Jaiden Short? How long is he out for? We don't know. He was injured in the warm up. But it didn't say knee soreness. It said knee. So I feel like that could be a couple of weeks, could be more serious.
On the telecast, I heard, I swear I heard them say it's knee inflammation. So I wonder if they were just being extremely cautious and taking him out. But yeah, we'll probably, by the time this gets uploaded and people are listening to it on a Monday, there might be more about it. But I swear I heard knee inflammation, which is a weird one.
All I'll say is, for everyone that held Jaiden Short, he'll be back next week and he'll score a 120 because I traded him out. That's how it goes. So, not a must trade if he's out, Moon Boy there. If he plays, you hold him, I think. And we'll go final question there was one here that went. Nerman Berdar Tom says, who goes first if all are named next week? Clayton Oliver, Jaiden Short, or Caleb Daniel? So I want you to answer that, and then I want you to say where you'd rank a rookie if they go ahead of any of these guys, or if these guys go. So how would you rank those three in terms of who goes out, and then the rookie part after?
For me, it's Oliver, Daniel, Short, but it's Oliver, rookie, Daniel, Short.
Yeah, agreed.
So Oliver before the rookies. There you go.
Yeah, I just think he's going to be... I don't see the bounce back from him.
Yeah. Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like, it sounded... I traded him when they said he was having a break, and then he obviously was used in a very different way on the weekend. Didn't really look like himself. He's had a poor run. He's got even before the week he had off, he's got a tough run of fixtures coming up. I think you can really launch to him, and it can, whether you go down or up, it can really help balance out other areas of your team.
The thing that I didn't get, and this was the bit where we sort of wrap up everything, was when Simon Goodwin post-game said that when he had his obviously meeting with Clayton Oliver in the week to check and see if he's playing, and then he said that Clayton Oliver was the one that asked him and said, do you want me to go to Newcombe this week? Like, I think that's a bit of hogwash, I reckon. I don't think Oliver's going to be a player that goes in and says, do you want me to tag someone instead of getting my 30 touches? I just think I don't believe that at all, and I don't think many people
doing that job, hasn't it? Viney's been doing that accountable tagging job. And maybe it was a case of Goodwin was like, the midfield group, we need someone to tag, and Oliver's gone, I'll do it, boss.
Yeah,
maybe.
Like, it could have been that could have been the kind of the conversation. Yeah, I don't like the uncertainty around Clary, and while he's still got some money on his head, I think you can get to some quite fun places from that. You could even do an upgrade and fix a Moraes on your bench, or someone who doesn't quite, or a Connor Stone, someone who doesn't have that much cash on their head but has enough. Like, you can get that cash regenerating on your bench and get an upgrade from Clary.
Yeah. Cool. All right. That will be where we cut it off, but appreciate everyone that sent through their questions and tuned in live. We'll go through, I guess, what my early trade plans are. So, Tom, obviously, we Rocket's just lifted, right? You probably haven't had a chance to go and play with your team, but you probably had a look at it throughout the weekend. What do you? Okay, you have. Okay, there you go. What are you looking at doing?
Right now, and it might change. I have the Sydney duo of Bice and Wicks out for Nick Martin and Saad El Hawley.
Oh, lovely trades. Yeah, I don't think I'll be doing anything as good as that, mate, but very good. And Tony Ford says in the chat there, I'd love for Tom to just pronounce every player in the AFL. Yeah, I would love to see that as well. Maybe we have to get a video going there. So, yeah, love to see that. Fry, any thoughts from you what you might be doing with trades?
Because I'm a complete nuffy, I sat down before the weekend and mapped out my trades leading into the buy. So I had these ones ready to go pre-pod, but I think I'm going to upgrade Chera to try and find someone that suits my buy structure a bit more. And it's probably going to be Connor Stone or Sam Lawler down. I'm inclined to go Stone because I still think that Lawler he's got that little bit of extra dollars on his head, and I don't necessarily need the cash this week. But I'm also very tempted just to try and do a bit of a rookie shuffle. I think a couple of us have probably got some of those red dots piling up. Maybe it's trading a player like Stone, as I've mentioned, or Foss, who doesn't present a ton of value, but just trying to see if there's a green dot that emerges. But most likely, Adam Chera up to Jordan Dawson and Connor Stone down to Cooper Simpson.
Yeah, like it, mate. For me, don't know where to start. I've got to get in a defender because obviously trading short out means that currently one of Carroll, Foss, or Bustling is my D6. Obviously, I knew that was going to be the case. I knew I'd have to get a defender in, but I just thought in case shorts out longer, I'll do it. So I'm targeting a Max Holmes, Jack Sinclair, Nick Martin type this week. Whether I go Clayton Oliver to someone there, so his break-in's 134, so that makes me very scared. But I've also got Lindsay still on field, so it's like I'm going to have one of Lindsay or Cleary. Cleary scoring Friday night probably determines if I hold Oliver or trade him. If I can get Lindsay up to someone, that's probably what I'm looking at doing there. But yeah, look, got to get a defender in this week with that. So there's plenty of issues piling up in my team. But that'll do us there. So if you are tuning in live on YouTube, please smash a like on the video. That'd be very much appreciated. And subscribe to our channel. We're less than 200 away now from 4,000 subscribers, which was our big goal at the start of the year. So if you guys can hit the subscribe button and help us reach that goal, that would be very, very much appreciated. And you guys have been smashing it this year. And I'll keep my chin up. I'll keep pushing through. So don't think I'm going to go away just because I'm having a bad year. We've got to try and turn this around. Hopefully we can make some sort of comeback. But Tom, mate, thank you for jumping on with us, mate. Always love chatting fantasy with you. Where can the people find you across the socials?
I'm on X at Tom_Hales_. And hope everyone has a really good week.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you for jumping on. Fry, mate, where can the people find you? Good to have you back on.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's been a minute, but yeah, really appreciate jumping on. Love talking fantasy with a couple of talented coaches amongst yourselves. So you can find me
one talented coach. And it's
bounce back's coming, Bales. Everyone loves a comeback story.
Do they? Or do they like seeing Bales come back and sort of just be shit the whole year? Maybe that might be the case. We'll see.
Just let me know your trades ahead of round 10, just in case I'm eyeballing the simmer player.
If you go Martin, just tell me.
Yeah, no Nick Martin, all right? Because that interests me as well, all right, Bales? That's the one rule. You can find me at Sports by Fry on all the social media bits and pieces. I'll do the Cash Cows piece for the Dream Team Talk Boys dropping Wednesday morning as well. So it's nice to have another second, call it, crop of rookies coming through. All the ones that we kind of invested in at the start of the year are either gone or going. So, plenty to talk about and plenty of bits and pieces coming this week.
And where can people find the Patreon as well? Get a few legends over there.
Yeah, Fantasy Sports by Fry. So I do a bit of a deeper dive looking at all the rookies there, digging into the VFL stats and stuff as well, rookie rankings, so the blokes that you should buy, hold and sell, etc., and then on-field rankings that drop Friday morning just to try and organise the rookie roulette. I've gone okay this year, but there was a couple of coaches who were asking me if they should field bias or read, and I led them down the wrong path. So, take all my advice with a grain of salt, but appreciate all the crew that sign up and support me over there.
Yeah, beautiful. No, thank you, mate. Thank you for jumping on. Good to have you back on. I'm sure we'll chat again to not only you, but Tom again at some point, a few times maybe throughout the season. You can find me at BAILSDT, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans across the socials. We'll be back on Tuesday night for our Tuesday night Q&A. I know Jordy back on. I'm assuming maybe Guesty and Jordox both be on, so might have a full four of us will be jumping on there as well. So looking forward to answering your questions there. If people want to hear more about my miserable team, I'll be doing a team review tomorrow on YouTube. I'm not looking forward to recording that after this, but I'll do it this week. So we'll see how we go with that one. But thanks everyone for tuning in. As I said, smash like the video if you're on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you are on podcasts and Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and could leave us a 5-star rating and review, that will be very much appreciated. Have a good couple of nights, guys. We'll chat to you guys again very, very soon. Thanks, everyone. Catch you then. See ya.